Hey, I'm back again to talk about that game. I'll be honest and say I am not feeling 100% today. But Kyle was very, very persistent that I finish this, so here I am. He's here now, but I told him to wait downstairs so that way I can talk about this in peace and quiet this time. That blur returned again, and it feels even worse than last time. It's driving me nuts. That and the you know what, I'll talk about it a little later, but for right now, let's just continue where I left off with the game. Alright. I'm gonna have a little more energy for right now. Now, where did I last leave off? Similar place as last time. Alright, I remember now. I was returned back to that file select screen. I'm not even gonna deny it. The music felt so much more disturbing to me the third time around. It just, combined with knowing what happened to Tails and Knuckles in their levels, along with their states on the file select screen, it made it feel much more wrong. I remember looking over at Eggman and seeing how he was now unlocked. I won't deny that I felt a little bit of fear at the idea of playing as him right now, because, well, I'm pretty sure he had less options compared to Tails and Knuckles. It was kind of rough as I wondered about how Sonic might end up catching me this time. Although, I did have a little bit of morbid curiosity too. But, at the time I kind of thought whatever, sort of anyway, before selecting Eggman. And once again for the third time, that Kefka laugh screeched through my speakers before the screen cut to black with a sharp static sound. After a few moments, red pixelated text suddenly appeared on screen, and I read out, "Tell me something." It then faded away before being replaced with, "Are you a new player? Or the same sadistic one from before?" That text then faded away before being replaced by, "Do you want to help them? Or do you love to watch their agony over and over again?" It then faded before one last bit of red pixelated text appeared stating, "Either way, there are so many souls to play with, yet so little time. Wouldn't you agree?" Before it all faded to black again. I was then taken to the level's title screen, and similar to Knuckles, there wasn't really much of a title. It just said act ... before it all slid away to reveal my surroundings. Eggman stood in a stage that I didn't really recognize, but it did look like the interior to a castle, at least to me anyway. It was very dark, the background looking as if it was made of stone, or at least the walls anyway. There were red curtains, really long ones, and in between each set was a dimly lit torch. Eggman stood atop a black and white checkered floor. The expression the sprite had looked almost nervous to me as he stood there. What the hell was that? Okay, well, that woke me up a bit. I think I saw that blur again. I swear my mind is not taken too kindly to that thing my mom bought me now. Whatever, I'll be fine. Let me continue. I remember standing there for a little while, really taking in the surroundings of the level. I really wasn't sure if it was anything from a Sonic game. I assume not, because I did play a lot of them. Me waiting there for a little while ended up allowing me to notice a couple of things I wouldn't have otherwise. Well, one thing anyway. The curtains, I think they might have been moving ever so slightly from time to time. I'm not too sure. What really caught my eye, though, was the music. It made me feel very dreadful as I then began to start moving through the stage. Someone was playing a series of chords on a piano, and it was getting lower and lower as time moved on. Other notes that felt unnatural to me coming along with it. I remember running through the level for a little while, it being, well, nothing but a flat floor. I gotta admit, it felt a little uneventful in the beginning compared to the other two, but that didn't stop my paranoia. I had a feeling that something was gonna happen, something I wouldn't expect, and wouldn't know when. Eventually, though, I did come across a spot where the floor began to slope down as a set of stairs. I remember traveling down those stairs for a little while as well. Not quite as long as the other flat ground, but a little long nonetheless. I remember my eyes darting around all over the screen, just trying to make sure that Sonic wasn't going to appear anywhere, or that he hadn't appeared anywhere. Eventually I did reach the end of the stairs, and I kept moving along again on another piece of flat terrain. I then ended up... What the heck was that sound? Where the hell's my... Kyle, did you... That's... Son of a... This guy's always so damn impatient. Screw it. I want this done. Alright, I'm definitely a little more awake now, if a bit frustrated. As I was saying, though, I ended up by some pitfalls later on as I moved through the level and had to jump over them, and thankfully this time I did. Until I got to another staircase, that is. I was moving down it, and there was a pit in the middle of that as well. Unfortunately, I ended up failing the jump, misjudging the distance, especially with, well, the jump being at an angle. As Eggman fell off screen, everything suddenly cut to black again with a sharp static sound. And very familiar red pixelated text appeared, the same one that I saw on the Knuckles stage. It said, "You don't get to decide your fate here," before I was then returned to the beginning of the level again. Cussing in frustration, at least I'm pretty positive that's what I did, I ended up moving through the level again, and eventually getting past the pitfalls, including the one on the staircase. That one caused me to sigh in relief even more compared to last time, because that was a long area to get through. After this, I continued moving through the level, and, well, flat terrain, then another staircase, more flat terrain, kind of rinse and repeat pretty much. I began to relax a little, but only a little, as I wasn't sure what to expect. Anything could happen randomly. I soon paused, though, as I noticed that the background had changed. The stage still looked like the same castle, nothing super drastic changing about it. Sort of, anyway. But it was the torches that had changed. The flame, it was all of them were pure black, which caught me off guard. I immediately knew that something had to be wrong. That most likely was a bad omen. At least in my eyes, it was. I almost continued moving, but I then noticed near the left side of the screen, right in front of the curtains, was a very familiar and dark silhouette. Sonic had finally shown up. I could see those two dark red glowing dots on that silhouette, seeming fixated on Eggman. I remember waiting there for a little while, trying to think and ponder any ideas on whether or not there was actually anything that maybe I could do this time. I know it sounds like insanity, but look, again, I really hate dying in video games. It feels terrible. After a while, I eventually did decide that I would just keep moving and see what happens. Eventually, I ended up at the top of yet another set of stairs. But this time, as I approached, what the hell was that again? Dear God. I swear, I really think this game made my condition worse. Unless that was Mom or Kyle. But I didn't even hear anyone walk in. Whatever. Anyway, as I approached the top of the stairs, Eggman suddenly stopped on his own. The screen then slid a little to the left, revealing Sonic standing there. That wide grin plastered across his face as he stared at the doctor. Eggman then spun around to face Sonic. The two enemies stared at each other for a while. I'm not entirely sure how long, but it was a little while. They were just standing there, as still as statues. I remember jolting in surprise as Sonic suddenly lunged forward, ramming the heel of his shoe into Eggman's gut and sending him crashing down the stairs. I think I visibly cringed with every loud bang that cut through my speakers as Eggman tumbled down. Eventually, he finally hit the floor, hitting it really hard with yet another loud bang, and then he just laid there. Even though it was all pixelated, I could still tell that Eggman was really battered and broken. I think I could even make out a couple of white pixels that were poking out from one of his legs, but I don't know for sure. I looked over to the right to see Sonic standing there with that same sadistic smile across his face. Those red glowing eyes of his, still fixated on the doctor as he stood. The screen suddenly burst in fits of red static, and when it returned, Sonic was closer than before. It stayed that way for a little bit longer, before bursting in the red static again. And then he was even closer. And this cycle repeated over and over until he was standing right next to Eggman. Eggman still just lay there, not moving at all. I thought it looked like he was almost weeping, as if he had just sort of accepted his defeat or something. I tried pressing down on the keys on my keyboard to see if I could move at all to hopefully get away or do something. I don't know if Eggman had an attack or not, but I wanted to at least try. But I couldn't. Nothing happened. The screen burst into static once more, and it lasted for a little bit longer this time. When it returned, it showed Sonic holding Eggman up in the air, just above him. He clutched a hold of Eggman tight with both hands, one gripping a hold of him by the chest, while the other gripped a hold of him by the waist. Despite how pixelated everything looked, Sonic did look like he had a bit more detail on him. He smiled a wide, toothy grin as he stared up at Eggman, and then he began to pull. I saw the sprite of Eggman look to be gritting his teeth as the process was done. Sonic then darted his gaze in my direction before Eggman was suddenly ripped in half. Blood splattered over my screen, and Eggman suddenly let out a loud wail of agony before the screen just cut to static immediately for one last time. It stayed that way for a long time. Eventually, though, I made out something that was in a deeper shade of red on my screen, but I remember not being able to make it out. I think I leaned in trying to see what it was, and I read out a text saying, "You didn't answer my question from before." The red text then faded away to then be replaced with what I think was... what did it say? I remember. In the end, it doesn't really matter, because in this world, I immediately jolted backward as an image of Sonic's face suddenly jumped on screen, a deep sound screeching through my speakers as it did, really catching me off guard. It stayed like that for a while, really letting me take in the image. It was awful to look at, a bit discomforting to say the least. Its style was like that of a painting, and it was a close-up image of Sonic's head with a dark background. Those two bright red eyes staring right at me. He had a smile that seemed to stretch from ear to ear. He looked so unnatural to me. And his teeth, his mouth were filled with nothing but yellowed, razor-sharp fangs that were smothered in blood, just like his fur. That same red liquid still pouring down his cheeks from his eyes as he stared. The last thing I saw was a simple phrase in bright red text at the bottom of the screen. And at the time, this actually did kind of scare me a bit, the idea of it. I read out, "I am God." That Kefka laugh then shot through my speakers once again, before more of that red static began to envelop the image. I was then taken to a game over screen. This game over screen felt so wrong to me. The music combined with the unholy sight that stood before me, it really didn't feel right. Each note that played of the song that they had felt unnatural, especially in combination with the fits of manic laughter that changed pitch every so often. The image showed Sonic standing there to the left, still smiling. Eggman, Knuckles, and Tails were all there as well. But each of them had their head stabbed atop a wooden pike. I don't know what to say from here. The game was definitely an uncomfortable experience for me. I mean, it did its job, but I still regret playing it, and I hate that Kyle showed it to me. It's not that the game is just that terrifying or anything. It's more so the fact that it made my condition so much worse, adding on to what I see compared to before I played it. So many things have happened since playing it that have left me so confused. From that blur to that thing I mentioned earlier. You see, sometime after I played the game, I found this Sonic plush just sitting on my bed. Now, I'm still positive my mom bought it. There's no way she didn't. She does sometimes like to surprise me with random gifts from time to time, and I thought that this was one of them. She knows I like Sonic the Hedgehog, so I would expect this to happen. Hold on, I need to check something real quick. I don't think Kyle's up here right now. Okay, so there's a couple reasons why I didn't want Kyle up here, more than just silence for myself. You see, the thing is, going back with the blush, I asked her about it. I even picked the thing up and showed it to her, but she didn't really react too much to it. The most she did was, well, question me. She asked me if I had remembered to take my meds that day, and she told me that, just like Kyle, this is most likely something that my mind had imagined, another hallucination of some sort, or whatever it was exactly she said. I don't know. I don't understand. That's the thing, though. Kyle seems to be the other issue. But I was just talking with him downstairs. I did notice my mom giving me a worried look, though. And I still don't get it. Kyle is right there. I don't know. I'm so confused by it. Especially now I think about it, he doesn't react when my mom does mention this stuff to me. Wait a minute. I just remembered something. What was it? Oh no. Did I remember to take my antipsychotics?
Ready for round 2.